what time period does the Book of Devarim cover? In fact, the Book of Devarim seems to be covering the shortest time period of all the 5 books of Moshe. The first book, of course, covers the longest time period, from beginning of civilization, you could say, I guess, till the forefathers and the entrance of the family of Yaakov to Egypt. Then the second book also covers quite a bit of time, a few hundred years that we were in Egypt. According to Chazal, we weren't in Egypt the entire 400 years, that we were there only 210 years, but there are other opinions. Whatever the case may be, it covers quite a long period of time. Then the third book, Sefer Vayikra, only covers a very short time period, when the tabernacle was built and whatever the mitzvot. It can't even say that it's a time period. It's most of the action in Sefer Vayikra is just the commandments that were given, but they were given throughout the time when the Jewish people stayed near Har Sinai, and there was Ohel Moed, there was a tent with the mini temple that we had, and Moshe was telling the Jewish people the various laws. So according to chronology, it took a month and 20 days. We were there. The tabernacle was built and put up on the 1st of Nisan, and we left the Har Sinai on 20th of Iyar. And then Sefer Bamidbar, of course, covers practically the entire 40 years of the desert, even though we don't know much about the 38 years in the middle. We only know some things that happened in the second year, and then the Book of Bamidbar just moves on to the last year with the death of Miriam. We learn in Parshat Chukat, and then from then on, all the action takes place in the last year. So even though it covers the period of 40 years, but only the beginning and the end of those 40 years. The second year and the 40th year are the ones that are actually covered. And at last, the Sefer Devarim that we're studying now, it only covers a very short period of time. The last month and 7 days of Moshe's life. Moshe started expounding the Torah and saying the words of Musar, the ethical teachings and the repetition of the commandments. He started doing that, as our Pasha says in the beginning, that happened on the 11th month and the first day of the month in the 40th year. So he started doing it on the 1st of Shvat. Of course, the name Shvat came later. All these names of the months came from Babylonia, as the Jerusalem Talmud tells us. It was just called 11th month in the Torah, what we call the month of Shvat. And according to tradition, Moshe died on the 7th of Adar. That's a majority opinion, although there are some differences of opinion on that too. But the majority of our sages say that Moshe died on the 7th of Adar. It's based on a calculation that we count backwards from the 10th of Nisan, when we entered the land of Israel in times of Yoshua, after Moshe's death. And we count backwards 33 days. 30 days of mourning of Moshe and 3 days that it took until they crossed Jordan. So 10th of Nisan, counting back 33 days, comes out to 7th of Adar. So therefore, the last month and 7 days of Moshe's life is when he expounded the Torah. Now there is a Mechilta, at least in some versions, and Chizkuni also says that it was altogether 36 days. I was always wondering why 36, not 37. Right? Usually Shvat is 30 days. Today, at least in the fixed calendar, Shvat is 30 days plus 7 days of Adar. So maybe they thought that in that year Shvat was only 29 days. But what's more likely, I think, is that they're not counting the last day. When Moshe actually died, he couldn't expound the Torah the whole day. He was basically only maybe expound the Torah a little bit in the morning, or according to Chazal, he actually wrote the Sefer Torah at that time. Whatever the case may be, we probably don't count the non-full day of Moshe's actual death, and therefore it's 6 days of Adar that are counted plus 30 days of Shvat. Maybe that's how they get 36. So I was thinking, why did they emphasize that it was 36 days? Maybe because the Book of Devarim starts with the word Eile HaDvarim, and Eile has Gematria 36. Or what's more likely, in my opinion, is that just like Chazal darshan that the word Eicha, the beginning of the book of Eicha, it also has Gematria 36, and it's connected the 36 types of karet. The Mishnah in the beginning of Masechet Kritot says that there are 36 commandments for which there is the worst punishment, karet, the cutting of the soul, so-called, whatever that means. There are different types of kritot, but one of the worst types of punishments is for a person to be cut off from the Jewish people, the karet. And there are 36 such commandments. And there is a midrash in Eicha that says that because our nation broke all these kritot, that's why the book of Eicha starts with the word Eicha, the gematria of 36. So I'm thinking that maybe that's why the Book of Devarim also starts with the word Eile, and that's why it took 36 days for Moshe to expound on the Torah. 36 meaning the keneged, the number of kritot that are in the Torah, the 36 days of Musar that Moshe had to say. And of course, the word Eicha is also hinted in is also mentioned in our parsha. It hints also to this idea that it always is read before Tisha B'Av, the parsha Devarim. Eicha esa levadi. Ashkenazim usually read it in a tone similar to the book of Eicha, in the same melody. And on this I'm going to end. If you like this video, please press like. When we get to Parshat Ha'azinu, I will later discuss another interesting idea about the number of psukim in the book of Devarim, and the number of so-called types of shamayim that exist.